I want to say thank you for just taking the time to come on the show today and talk with me, answer these questions. Uh, if you want to get started, we could just jump right into the first one.
Okay, all right.
All right. So just the first question about like sort of your inspiration. What first inspired you to run for public office?
Um, First inspired me. I've been, well, for the last 10 years, I've been doing some community organizing and been getting a better understanding of how power works. And and I've come to realize that the inherent power that elected officials have. So it I didn't really see myself in that role. I was thinking someone from our team would step up and, and that I would coach them and whatnot. And when an opportunity came up, they unanimously felt that I would should take that opportunity. So the incumbent in Ward 3 of St. Louis Park, which is where I serve, um, decided not to run again, and so it was an open seat. And we knew that I did some interviewing, informational interviewing of other folks about what power city council really has, and learned enough for my satisfaction to say, hey, this is something that I really want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, was there any like moment or experience that made you feel like you really had to step into politics, like yourself? You mentioned like that they have like this council member is what ends up having like the actual power to like, make the decisions and stuff. So, was there anything specifically there that kind
I
of made you think
think,
about it?
well, so I got elected. I decided to run in 2021. So it was just on the heels of the first Trump administration
Hmm.
and on the heels of January 6th, with the whole election uh,
Yep.
at risk as a process. And so I doubled down, I think, in my personal passion towards democracy. So so that was probably the moment that it wasn't a single moment in time, but it was uh, uh,
Accumulation.
yeah, right, right, yes, in a period that that really inspired me to step into democracy and defending democracy. So, yeah, some people say, I've heard it said, we have politics 1.0 where you run for office, you campaign, you run for office, you're elected, and then you go do your job. And part of what I was working with community organizing is what I think of as politics 2.0, which is where you get elected and then your job really begins in co-governing with the people.
Hmm.
And so I'm a very strong proponent of that model of co-governing. I mean, I listen to residents, I learn a lot from residents, and that's what my job is to represent them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And then sort of shifting towards like challenges and rewards. Since being elected, what has been the most rewarding part of serving on the city council for St. Louis Park?
I would say the most rewarding is getting to meet so many engaged citizens. People really care about their community, especially at a local level. And so in St. Louis Park, we have neighborhood groups, like my ward has 7 defined neighborhood geographies. And that's where people can make a difference. Everybody can make a huge difference and in their day-to-day lives. And so that's been really rewarding. Really rewarding is connecting with the communities that I represent. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize all the ways that a council person gets to do that. So
Mhm.
that was great.
Yeah. So then on the flip side, what's been like the biggest challenge or like, something that you didn't expect when you first stepped into office?
I had no idea how hard the job is. It is really hard. You have to know a little bit about so many things. When I was 3 months into the office, we had one of the biggest water main bursts that has ever happened in the city. It flooded with sewer. It flooded 60 basements in my ward.
Ooh.
People were livid that I wasn't out there at the time it happened. And I was like, I couldn't do anything to help that,
Yeah.
But
Yep.
then I realized, So anyway, that's kind of the learning the politics of it. But so yeah, so the job, it requires a lot more knowledge about a lot more things. About the infrastructure, about zoning law, about tax levies and bonds and incentive financing, all kinds of things. And I didn't realize that it was that difficult.
Yeah, everything under the sun.
Yes, that's right.
So then moving kind of towards advice like for young people, for students like me and others who may want to go into public service someday in the future, what advice do you think that you'd give?
Firstly, I would say do it. I think it's so important that we have passionate voices and different perspectives in the public realm. Um, you mentioned, your interest is maybe in physics or something different, but you can bring all of that into, I have seen things advance at a state level, for example, by a lot of medical doctors that understand the importance of um, paid family and medical leave and the implication that has on people's health. So you can take whatever your interest might be. I mean, I wasn't a career politician. I was into technology and uh, a big feminist, and I didn't realize how that perspective would work so well in a political office. So so I would say I would highly encourage getting involved because that's what makes democracy work.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what do you think that young people can start doing right now that they to make a difference in their communities?
I would say organize. I think people across the board, but especially and young people don't realize how impactful their voices are. So if you feel strongly about having a safety lamp at this doorway of the stadium or something like that, and you find five other people that feel the same way, you can impact decisions because you have organized a group, and as a group your voice is stronger. So you could organize around anything. I know in St. Louis Park we have students organized against racism, a group called SOAR, and they influence a lot of things. Like we were selecting a superintendent last year, and that group of students was very influential in that process. So organizing other students that are like-minded or have similar values. The other thing that I found, especially with this campaign, this is the first time I've used an intern. And so interning for political leaders is a great way to get your feet wet, roll up your sleeves, and sometimes be at strategic tables that you otherwise, maybe aren't at. So it's a good way to learn that.
Yeah, some really good points there. And so kind of closing it all up, wrapping it back together, when people look back at your career, what do you hope that they'll say you stood for?
Um, well, what I hope they would look back and say is that, well, regardless of what policy decisions, I always respected the dignity of everybody, of every person. I think that's really important. I think it's important that we work towards building a multiracial democracy, a true multiracial democracy, and a caring economy, an economy that uh, doesn't beat people up, but rather holds people up with social safety nets and that kind of thing. And then a world or an environment where Mother Earth is protected and allowed to flourish, because I think that's really important. Young people teach us a lot about the importance of that right now. And I work hard on our climate action plan, that kind of thing. And so I hope that that would be something that would be recognized as something I made a difference in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you for coming on the show today and taking the time to answer those questions. There's some really good responses, and I'm sure that the listeners will like to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you so much for what you're doing. I think it's it's very important and very much appreciated. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.